Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. The star of today's video is Rantic in the French Tier 8. I believe they technically refer to them as large cruisers. They're basically battle cruisers. I think the whole large cruiser thing actually came from, well, you'll rarely hear it phrased as bluntly as this, but the US Navy building battle cruisers and refusing to call them battle cruisers because that might imply they were copying the Royal Navy. And so why things like the Alaska, for example, are referred to as large cruisers instead of what they are, battle cruisers. But hey, whatever. I mean, if it looks like a battle cruiser, sounds like a battle cruiser, smells like a battle cruiser, and tastes like a battle cruiser, well, you can call it whatever the hell you want. You can call it a small off-duty Czechoslovakian traffic warden, but that doesn't change the fact that it is actually a battle cruiser. So anyway, whatever. The Cherbourg, French Tier 8 battle cruiser. This is a mostly Tier 8 battle. There are a couple of extremely unfortunate Tier 6s, in particular the Ismail on Rantic's team and the Arizona on the enemy team. And both teams also have a couple of Farraguts. There are a small scattering of Tier 7s around, but this is mostly a Tier 8 battle. And the matchmaking isn't that bad. There are no submarines, although there is a Tier 8 carrier on each side. His team have a Sanzang. I have no idea what that is. That must be a new Pan-Asian aircraft carrier? Whatever. The enemy team have a Chakalov. Both teams have 4 cruisers and 3 destroyers. The bad news, certainly the bad news for the cruiser captains in this match, although it could be worse for Rantic because he, well, we'll go on to the armour protection scheme of this thing in a moment. But the bad news is that there are 4 battleships. So unless the cruiser captains in this battle want to get an almighty paddling, they're going to have to pay attention to the positions and the targets of the enemy battleships. Rantic, however, in that regard at least, does have slightly more options than the other cruisers on his team, because as a battle cruiser he is more heavily armoured than a standard cruiser. That's the whole point of the battle cruiser concept. You're fast enough to run away from anything that outguns you, and you can tank anything that doesn't outgun you and smash them with your superior firepower from these 8 305mm guns. He can, I don't want to say largely ignore, because he did just take a reasonable hit from the Scharnhorst over there as he turned in behind the island to hide from the destroyer that he knows is out there somewhere and is still spotting him. But he doesn't have to worry too much about the Arizona and the Scharnhorst on the enemy team because they don't have guns with a high enough caliber to be able to overmatch his bow plating. He can basically bow tank the Arizona and the Scharnhorst in this very big cruiser. The Hawk and the Lenin on the enemy team, however, are a different matter. Not only can their 16-inch guns smash right through his bow plating as if it wasn't even there and sit it on from the front, but they can also overmatch his upper belt. So he'll have to be extremely careful when angling against the Hawk and the Lenin. In fact, it would be better if he could just avoid them altogether, if possible, and leave them to the big guns on his team, the Amagi, the Bismarck, the Nagato, and the Ismail. Speaking of big guns, the Cherbourg has 8 of them. But this is where things start getting weird. Because it's reasonable to think of the Cherbourg as a sort of Tier 8 upgunned version of the Dunkirk at Tier 6, because they're very, very similar ships. They're both fast, well, reasonably fast battle cruisers. They're both armed with large caliber guns in 2 quadruple turrets mounted at the front of the ship. So you'd naturally expect the Cherbourg to have the superior versions of these guns and the Dunkirk to have the inferior versions, because there's a 2-tier difference between these 2 ships and the Dunkirk isn't the Tier 8. However, the Dunkirk has 8 330mm guns, the Cherbourg has 8 305mm guns, the Dunkirk has a 26-second reload, the Cherbourg has a 29-second reload. The Cherbourg has a 17.7 kilometre firing range. The Dunkirk has an 18.2 kilometre firing range. The Dunkirk's armour-piercing shells can inflict 9,700 damage on a citadel penetration. The Cherbourg's 8,200. The Dunkirk's high explosive shells have a 35% chance of setting a fire on target. The Cherbourg's 17%. I mean, wargaming, you do realise the Cherbourg's 2 tiers higher, right? The principal difference, however, at least in the Cherbourg's favour, is the accuracy. The Dunkirk's guns can best be described, or at least as far as their accuracy is concerned, as bloody awful. The Cherbourg, while it doesn't have as good accuracy as a standard cruiser, it does have way better accuracy, dispersion and sigma values than a battleship. See, it's all well and good having the technically superior guns, but if you can't consistently put warheads on foreheads, well, your guns are basically useless, aren't they? This is what we refer to as the Gneisenau syndrome, although the Dunkirk's guns aren't that bad. But the Cherbourg does not have those kind of problems. Now, you will still get this occasional wonky dispersion when, for some reason, shots from the same turret land 200 meters apart. But it's the exception rather than rule with the Cherbourg. And it's the rule rather than the exception with the Dunkirk. Another advantage that the Cherbourg has over the Dunkirk is that it actually has usable secondaries. Now, let's not get too excited, right? This isn't a Massachusetts or a Grosser Kurfürst. But the secondaries are at least usable. It has 14 130mm guns. That's 10 more than on the Dunkirk. They have improved range over the Dunkirk with a range of 7.6 kilometers. And unlike the Dunkirk, they're actually capable of hitting targets. They have improved accuracy. I mean, I wouldn't recommend building for secondaries on this ship because, you know, again, it's not a USS Massachusetts or a Grosser Kurfürst, but they are at least usable. And can be a nasty surprise to any destroyers that get too close or any submarines that you catch at close range on the surface. There is more bad news, however. As a battlecruiser rather than a cruiser, she takes double flooding damage and fires last a full 60 seconds, same as on a battleship. On the bright side, she does have a decent amount of hit points though. 53,000 is a lot. It's nearly 20,000 more than the French Tier 8 cruiser, the Charles Martel, and it's not that much less than the French Tier 8 battleship, the Richelieu. And unlike regular cruisers, like the Tier 8 Charles Martel, she does have access to a repair party. Note that thus far, I haven't been giving you much of a running commentary on what's actually been going on in the battle. It's because there hasn't actually been an awful lot going on in the battle. The enemy team have 2 of the 3 cap circles, but they only have a 40-point advantage. And nobody's sunk anything yet, and we're 7 minutes in. Both teams are being extremely cautious. Although the enemy Baltimore over there is in a fairly precarious position, although he did manage to slow down just in time to avoid getting clapped by a 8-gun salvo with 305mm armor-piercing shells. Rantic, meanwhile, leaving the Baltimore to the guns of the friendly Ismail and switching his target to the Farragut, who's just popped out and ambushed the friendly Akatsuki. Because he's a good guy, and he's looking out, and he's not the only one, for his teammate in the Akatsuki over there. But ooh, the Farragut just got clapped. He's slowing and smoking up. I mean, the Farragut may be only tier 6, but it's got 6 guns, and it can easily outgun a destroyer like the Akatsuki. The smokescreen was too little too late. The Farragut earns the distinction of becoming the first casualty in this battle, and we're 8 minutes in, and is swiftly followed by another tier 6, unfortunately this time, yeah, on Rantic's team, the Ismail, who didn't appear to be capable of dealing with the Baltimore. Rantic now switching to the Baltimore, and with the high explosive loaded, since his 305mm guns aren't capable of overmatching the Baltimore's bow plating, and showing that the high explosive shells on this ship are actually fairly decent. Setting a fire and doing about 5,000 damage with his first salvo. Don't understand why the Baltimore's just pushing out into open water when there was an island right next to them they could have just backed up into, but well, let's hope it's going to result in a kill. Oh, you've got to be kidding, not quite. Another flurry of casualties there, both teams are losing a further 2 ships, with the Bismarck on the team getting a flesh wound award. The Baltimore stubbornly refusing to go down, the team loses a destroyer. This is starting to not look good, particularly since the enemy team now have all 3 of the cap circles. The Baltimore finally goes down with a Nagato sniping him. Both teams are now on 3 kills, but with that 3 cap advantage, the enemy team now have a 200-point lead. And with what looks like enemy ships in every cap circle, it doesn't look like Rantic's team are going to be flipping any of these caps back anytime soon. Ooh, enemy Kagero spotted by one of the friendly Baltimores using his radar. Too late for Rantic to be able to do anything about it, but the Cheshire... Whoa, the Cheshire just got slapped. Right as Rantic was switching from high explosive to armor piercing. But it doesn't look like he's going to get away, because I believe the Cheshire is about to run himself aground. And he did. Oh, this is going to hurt. Shots out. Remember, killing cruisers is what this thing is for. And it's a citadel, of course it is. 1,300 health left, scores a citadel. These are what we call pitadels, pity citadels. When you don't need the citadel to kill the target, just an over-penetration would do, but the game gives you a citadel anyway. Oh, enemy carrier. Oh, it's on now, boys. Carrier caught in open water. Not quite broadside on. Yeah, there it is, triple citadel. That's right, Akazuki, triple citadel. And on a carrier too, best kinds of citadels. Oh, is he? Oh, surely he's going to get the kill here. Come on, baby. And this is a flat broadside. He's waiting out that horrible 29-second reload, though. Shots out. Come on. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Give me... Oh, fuck off, game. Oh, here come the torpedo beats. Yeah, that was easy. He's also flipping the central cap here, by the way, but that carrier is still not dead and very, very much needs to die before it's able to get into cover behind the island. Come on, come on. And this reload is horrible. Shots out. Oh, you might just be able to catch the back end. Yes, there it is. Another citadel. No torpedo beats this time, however. And with this ship taking double damage from floods compared to other cruisers, he wastes no time whatsoever popping that damage control. I think that's the enemy flint in the smoke screen raining down. I mean, judging by the rate of fire and the number of shells coming this way, it does look like some kind of Atlanta. Probably the flint. The problem that Rantic has, of course, is that while I'm sure he'd love nothing more than to sit here in Bravo and continue flipping this cap, he cannot really repel the kind of damage per minute that the flint is capable of pushing out. Especially not when he's down below 20,000 health, and he can't even see the flint to return fire because he's in a smoke screen. And it's the Cleveland over there who's actually spotting him for the flint. So by pushing in on the Cleveland, he's actually solving three problems at once. First, he's heading away from the flint and hopefully soon outranging the flint's guns. Second, he's killing, or at least assisting in the kill, of the target that's actually spotting him for the flint. And third, and probably most importantly, removing another ship from the enemy team's order of battle. Unfortunately, right before he managed to outrange the flint's guns, it did manage to set a fire, and, well, with fires lasting 60 seconds on this thing, he wastes no time extinguishing that. The second his damage control party comes off cooldown. 7.5 minutes to go. Rantic, the New Orleans and the Farragut are now finally flipping a cap circle. They're only 100 points behind the enemy team, and they do now have a 4-kill lead. But the enemy team still have the cap advantage. Rantic is, however, once again spotted. There's a very suspicious looking smoke screen over there. Oh, he's just gone unspotted. Now, that... don't know what to make of that. Initially I thought maybe the enemy Kagero spotting for the flint, because that would make sense. I mean, the flint stays inside the smoke screen, and then the Kagero goes out and spots for it. But we already know that the flint is no longer in shooting range, otherwise he would have been shooting. Plus that smoke screen's dissipating. The second the smoke screen... you see, he's getting spotted, unspotted. Ah, it's the Kagero. Now, Rantic's going to need to be really careful here, because on the other side of that island to his rear, there is an Arizona. And the Arizona may only have 14-inch guns and can't overmatch his bows, but he can still smash through his broadside. So he's going to need to try to keep that island between himself and the Arizona wherever possible. It's never a good idea to fight more enemies at once than you need to. Keeping a close eye on the Arizona. Oh, that's a lot of torpedoes. Yeah. Scharnhorst spotted, but he's 25 kilometers away. The enemy Yadachi is around. So we know there's a Kagero inside that smoke screen. There's a Baltimore... sorry, not a Baltimore. There's an Arizona over there. You see, this is why I'm constantly getting the names of things wrong. I know what I'm looking at, and I know what its name is, but what comes out of my mouth bears no relationship whatsoever to what it is I'm actually looking at. Oh, check out the rear firing angles on these 305mm guns. That's actually really, really good. I mean, the ship can't fire straight to the rear, but the firing angles ain't bad. I mean, he's given broadside to the smoke screen, which is only really going to be an issue if there are torpedoes on the way. It's not that he can completely discount the high explosive fire of the flint, or even the Kagero for that matter. But getting paddled by the Arizona would hurt a hell of a lot more. At the same time, though, he needs to take into account the very likely possibility that there are going to be torpedoes on the way. So he's changing his course and speed. Nice. Kagero's taken care of. He probably got spotted a little bit sooner there than he would have liked to, but he's actually managed to bring the ship around again so he can safely angle against anything that the Arizona might be thinking of sending his direction. There is an extremely suspicious looking smoke screen over there, although I don't think that's the Yadachi. That's probably the Flint again, and it's probably the Yadachi who's spotting him. Scharnhorst's still comfortably outside of shooting range. Sneaking into the cap circle here, keeping that island between himself and the Arizona. I mean, he's spotted, so the Arizona could be shooting at him if he wanted to. Oh, that's really bad news. They've just lost the Baltimore. I mean, they still have a comfortable kill advantage, but it's the points. And here come what are very probably Yudachi. Yet look at them. That's definitely Yudachi torpedoes, and that's caught him at a bad time because he had to turn to avoid it. And if the Arizona had been shooting at him at that point, he would have probably died. That's definitely the Flint inside the smokescreen, judging by the volume of fire coming out of it. Well, good news, the Arizona is focusing on the New Orleans, but bad news, they've just lost their Farraguts. They really need to start getting more kills. The enemy team are now up to over 900 points. This is, of course, why they're all focusing down the Arizona, because, well, he's the only one that they can see who's in shooting range and that they actually stand a chance of killing. The New Orleans, oh, those are going to be shots from the Scharnhorst. That's going to be a problem. Okay. They're not in immediate danger of losing. Those are going to be shots from the Flint. The enemy team are back down to less than 900 points. They are now only 300 points ahead, with 3 ships remaining. There's the Scharnhorst. Now remember, the Scharnhorst only has 280mm guns, which means the Cherbourg can comfortably tank it. However, it does have a very fast 20-second reload, and you don't want to be giving it broadside like that. Oh, I think he's misjudged the Scharnhorst's reload. He's trying to angle away from him. Oh, fingers crossed. Oh, more Yudachi torpedoes. Nobody can afford to die right now, or the enemy team are going to win. Oh, and the New Orleans coming in with a clutch kill on the Flint. This has bought them more time. Enemy team are down to 845 points, and they only have 1 cap circle. They're still 200 points ahead, though. How much time is left? I'm pretty sure that in the heat of the moment, Rantic couldn't figure out, or anybody on the team was able to figure out, whether or not a 1 cap advantage over the course of 3 minutes is going to be enough to make up the 200-point deficit between these two teams, or whether or not a single cap in 3 minutes is going to provide the enemy team with enough points to reach 1,000 before the timer expires. The only thing Rantic knows for sure right now is that the worst thing he could possibly do is get himself killed, because that will guarantee a win for the enemy team. At the same time, however, I mean, this is really, really close. It's way too close to call. Regardless of how... Oh, he's shooting. He's just got yourself spotted. With less than 5,000 health. You see... Oh, man. I would not have been comfortable to take that kind of chance, not with this amount of health. And the Scharnhorst is very accurate and has very high velocity shells. They may only be 280mm, but you're not a battleship. Okay, he's managed to go undetected again. See, here's the issue. To guarantee a win, they need either a kill or another cap circle. When you're sitting here on 2,500 health, getting into a gunfight with a Scharnhorst is a surefire way to guarantee a kill, but for the enemy team, not for your team. So that means taking a cap. However, while it looks like the Scharnhorst thinks they've got enough points to win because he was heading away, he's not interested in getting involved in a fight. And he needs to try to put as much distance between himself and the friendly carrier as possible. That Yadachi, if I was that Yadachi, I'd be thinking, the enemy team are going to need to take this cap circle. And I'd be flooding this cap circle with torpedoes. Oh, Rantic spotted. That's got to be the Yadachi. He's here. Somewhere. You can see him. The Scharnhorst just popped up. That can only mean he's just fired. Oh, maneuver. Avoid. Yep, there's the Yadachi. And he's... Whoa, that was close. He's going for the... He's trying to set a fire. Everybody instantly lights this guy up, of course, because, hey, they're spotted anyway. You're not losing anything by doing it. Oh shit, there's the torpedoes. Oof, dodged them, but he's still spotted. He's still getting shot at by the Scharnhorst. Which way do you go? He's getting shot at by the Adachi as well. Oh, lordy, this is bad. Oh, he's gone undetected. Okay, now he needs to get his ass in behind. That's exactly what he's doing, because he cannot die. He must get his ass in behind that island. They have all 3 of the cap circles. Dig in behind that island. Ram the island if you have to. Just do not die. The enemy team have no more points. Oh, you've got to be joking. Look at the points difference. Look at it. 1 point. That's it. That's how close that one was. To their credit, they knew that if they didn't take that cap, the enemy team was going to win. But they took the cap, and the enemy team won anyway by 1 single solitary point. I mean, you have to give credit to the enemy team here. They spent the last 3 minutes of that battle 2 against 6. And they managed to win by 1 point. The only reason this wasn't an episode of A Game of Thrones is because of that 1 point difference. So close. But it may as well have been 1,000. 1 point is all it takes. Rantic, my commiserations. I'm not going to say you didn't deserve to lose, although, well, I don't think you deserved to lose, but you have to give credit to the enemy team here for drawing this one out as well as they did. But my commiserations anyway, because whichever way you cut it, that one is definitely going to leave a scar. Everyone watching, I hope you've enjoyed Rantic's misfortune, because that's it for today. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.